Even in Death has taken their first victory in HGC Phase 2. Now we'll see if Naventic can do the same, or if Superstars has something to say about that.
Yeah, I think Superstars is probably going to do their best here, but they've been struggling, trying to find themselves left and right. You know, Superstars, with Yoda, the implementation coming in here, it just feels like the whole time, it's like, when are they going to make that breakthrough? And I feel like it's stalled out. You know, my hype train behind, like, this is going to be the breaking point, the rise up is a little bit too late, but I'm second guessing myself after last series.
Everyone should.
I felt the same thing for Even in Death.
Yeah.
I was like, it's too deep now, right? Weeks 1, 2, 3, but now we're in the 4th week. I was just like, are they actually going to be able to recover? And then they did. So now I'm like, maybe Superstars actually can. And even that of Naventic. I just feel like Naventic made a blatant, huge change, and then later, right? They did it at week number 3, 2, is when they swapped Tomster onto the support role.
Week 2.
And he's definitely been growing in that. And then I'm like, okay, I can see Naventic's progress, but what about for Superstars? And Even in Death makes me go, it's never too late.
Yeah, Superstars feels like there's been slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
Whereas Naventic, their series earlier this weekend was just like, wait, where has this been as a team? Their synergy was good. Their Uther play with Tomster was excellent. So, you know, maybe this is where we see Superstars have to level that up to keep up. Let's look at the standings, though, because things happened with that last win. First of all, Even in Death, boop, notch up over Team Naventic there. And then no tomorrow. They sadly are going to stay underneath Team Freedom and Gale Force Esports, not getting into that 3-way tie zone. Now being tied with Tempo Storm instead. The plot thickens, always.
Yeah, always. It really feels like it could not have been, you know, you could not write a more dramatic ending here for HGC North America in Phase 2, Part number 1. But again, this series is about the lower ladder here, number 6 and number 8, Naventic and Superstars. It's all about, for me, is again, Tomster versus like the rest of the Superstar and the adjustments that they made. Can they get that recovery? Sray, you know, who's he going to be on this week? Has he found the new hero? Because it did feel like every week they were like, here's Sray's Gul'dan this week. Okay, we don't want that.
And what was next?
I believe the next one wasn't into the Tassadar.
It was Tassadar, yeah.
Tassadar?
Tass was next.
And then now this week, let's guess. We got to both guess.
Well, last week was Greymane.
Oh, you're right. We got the Greymane coming out too. If you had a new one in that role for him, what is he going to bust out today?
We're going to do something ranged.
Yeah,
Tychus.
Tychus, you think that's it? I think, oh, okay. I like the Tychus game. Maybe I want to see more of like the Vala and like a double support style play, and he kind of try and play the battery on it. I don't know. Either way, we expect Sray to come out with a different hero here in this series. Again, it's just been like every week. It's because he is on that new role, trying to figure it out. No longer on the front lines. He's trying to learn the back line and what he can make happen the best. I feel like Tassadar was probably the most outstanding performance from him. Had a really high impact there, even with some of the force walls.
He had some flashy Greymane plays, though. Flask over the wall. But both of these teams have been in a lot of flux, so it's just who has been able to make the right adjustments into this week now for this match. Let's get into it. Superstars versus Team Naventic.
So going into Superstars, they do seem weaker than they were last split. And we've been trying a lot of strats, and I feel like a lot of the strats that we have been trying are actually good against Superstars. I feel like weaknesses-wise, Sray seemed a lot more confident on tank than he does on the range melee flex pro. I feel more confident playing against them this split than I did last split.
So this week against Naventic is pretty much a must-win for our team, but we're still focusing on just being the best team we can be, and we're making another change. We're having Erho move to the off lane, and we're switching Sray back to tank and shot calling. So we looked at our last phase and we had some success as the 4th team in North America, and we feel like a lot of that was with Sray on the tank role and shot calling, so we're going back to that to see if we could get some more success that way. Naventic is a team that you can never count out. We could look to 3-0, and that's obviously what we're going to try to do, but if Naventic comes out swinging, they could be one of the best teams in the league, so it's not going to be easy.
All right, Dredd, you conducted that interview with Hosties, so let's break it down, because you did not warn me about that.
I wanted everybody to learn it on the fly.
Okay.
If I came out here and I was like, by the way, they role swapped, and he was like, by the way, we role swapped, that would have been lame.
You let your co-caster know, though, at least that one.
It's better on the fly. Yeah, they are making the shift, so essentially kind of the, is this too late type deal. Maybe they feeling it a little bit themselves. I didn't ask necessarily the reasoning. I was just like, what are you guys doing this week? What's been different going on? And they put a lot of focus on themselves to be able to develop. And apparently that they feel like having Sarave restore back to his original role is going to be most beneficial for them. To be honest, that was a couple of days ago, and at the rate of change in North America, I wouldn't be surprised if it's been reverted back even on top of that. It's just, I feel like we won't know until the game is loaded in.
That's exactly what I was saying. I guess we'll find out as we get into game number 1. But that starts with the map pool. I can't believe I just did that on camera.
I can't believe you did either. That's why I do it when we go to the Battleground screen. Superstars taking us to the Tomb of the Spider Queen.
They have banned Sky Temple, and then the ban of Brax's holdout from Team Naventic. Anything immediately stand out to you?
Other than, okay, well, let's put it this way. Superstars is going back to what we knew from them. So let's ignore all the new developments.
Except they didn't have Airho then. How does that work? That was my question.
Oh, that's where you're going
Yeah,
for. You're going for the hard-hitting ones, not the casual one, because I wanted to be like, they're going to focus on wave clear. They're going to they're going to ignore the team fight strategies that they've had in the past since the new changes.
No, my question is they have 2 warrior players now.
So then that means Urho is...
And a melee.
Yeah.
You didn't ask that follow-up question, did you?
I didn't ask it.
It's all right.
I was just like, you know what, Hosty, I want to believe in you. I want to believe in the changes that you guys are making. I didn't want to force him, I was just like...
I hear you.
I'll just respect whatever happens type deal. And we'll
let it happen to us.
Yeah, we get to endure the storm with everybody else. Naventic, what do they want to kick off the draft? Is it still the Genji? One huge change is we have seen they can, in fact, play the Genji.
Yeah, big impact showing off there, and that was an issue for them in the drafting. They were basically forced to ban that, and they realized that they were starting to people were starting to abuse that in drafting. But they will stick with their Tassadar ban. Tass has been a constant focus for Naventic. So has Dahaka.
Yeah, so much so that I want to know if this is going to still be the first pick Dahaka. Again, we talked about, would we see Zuna in the mentality after the older game shift away? And no, they restored it back to norm. Zuna went back to that off roll, that side lane, as best as it can. But the fact that it isn't immediately locked in shows signs to me that Naventic is going to be mixing something up as well this week when it comes to their drafting, because that has been way too consistent for way too long. And after, again, the Genji performance of last week, it shows that they are changing their philosophy on how to draft.
Other picks, a new Barak is still available if they want that for B-Kid. They also have first pick Malfurion before and then followed up later on with Stitches. Naventic is... When they get Stitches, they really want to make sure that they have Malfurion with it, so much so that they'll reverse those picks. But then again, Uther's also up.
Going for the Uther. That was something that we had seen quite a bit from Naventic last week. And to no surprise, Tomster had a very impressive performance on that Uther. For a guy who was pretty much almost only playing the Karazim very early on, no surprise, he went from Greymane to playing another melee. He felt most comfortable there. Now, busting out supports and being a playmaker, not just getting the heals out. He's like the one initiating proper fights and setting his team ahead. And I'm expecting to see the same here for them against Superstars.
Well, Superstars are going to take away at least the Ariel combo along with that. They get Ariel as well as picking up Stitches for one of their warriors. Team Naventic.
One of their warriors.
For someone.
Somebody, in fact, will be playing the Stitches this game.
Yes, that is how the game and drafting works.
Oh, man. 23 seconds. You got any idea here for Naventic? They're heavy trending up to last week.
A noob. And a noob was the one thing I was thinking of to make sure that they still had Cocoon versus the Stitches, potential Gorge. But I wasn't sure about Greymane.
Yeah. Huh. All right. Not a problem with this rotation at all. Very, very strong. It's just, again, it's Naventic is trying to find themselves, and we're looking at what they've done in the past, and just slight changes here. For Superstars on the other side, they did commit to the very high Ariel. And so we can expect, again, that kind of small map style of play, looking on getting value out of the front walls very early on. They are hovering themselves a Malthael.
Yeah, that was one thing that I had noted about this series in particular, is that Naventic has started to draft more and more Malthael.
Yeah.
They have 2 different players. We've seen both Zuna and iDream play it. And then Superstars themselves, obviously have been playing Malthael as soon as they could possibly draft him because Yoda is very proficient on this hero. So maybe some back and forth on it. Oh, last minute change. Maybe that's showing us what they want to pick up.
Oh yeah, now that's stabbing again at the hero pool of iDream. Alarak was, though it seems like a very unique band to come out at this point in time, it's something that Naventic was displaying, a very offensive death volley composition. Hit the impale, get the follow-up combo from the Alarak, and just one-shot a target. They remove it, and then again, that indicates maybe Yoda wanted that Malthael for himself.
It's also a random but fairly consistent ban that we see in that exact position on Tomb of the Spider Queen in North America. Just every once in a while, this rogue Alarak ban just can't have Alarak.
A Medivh for Superstars. That's going to be Hosty there, and the Ariel as well. So a bit of a unique choice when coming to the who is going to be that extra support slash healer. It's going to be the Medivh. I doubt we find ourselves with another support behind that, but maybe that's just their plan is to gain value a lot of the Stitches if they move that direction.
If they truly are trying to put Srey back on Warrior, I expect their drafts in this series to all be double Warrior.
Okay.
It just doesn't feel like they would have enough time to try to shift Erho away into something else because Erho is in the same position that Srey was in too, which is that he's played Warrior. Has he ever been on a different role?
Neither of them have ever played a different role. Yeah, very few players ever even swapped the roles, you know? And so, yeah, from the beginning of time, since I've known their names in the competitive scene, they have been stuck on those roles. And I agree with you. That makes the most amount of sense, but either way, whoever it is going to be the one kind of off on an island, off on their own, and it doesn't add up to the draft that they have so far. Naventic get the Dahaka and a lot of what they want into this composition. Very strong overall, struggles a bit when it comes to their wave clear, but that is about the only downside, and it's not like Superstars has anything to write home about into that. Last pick is going to be the Arthas, matching into that 1v1, and that makes sense a lot, not only for the composition, but then because of the 1v1, and also it's one of the few warriors past the Dahaka who is one of those 1v1ers, not going in the melee assassin. I gotta say, for Superstars dealing with the, if let's say they need to draft double warrior, considering the map and dealing with their opponents, I think that was a beautiful draft.
Yes, they have a lot of wave clear here with the Stitches, and then Arthas will be able to hold his own in that solo lane where Dahaka will be too. But Naventic also got a lot of what they want.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more of like, I feel like Superstars with that role swap put a lot of like restrictions on themselves to not get a wonky draft, and they have a pretty well-rounded draft, a couple of synergies here and there, and it can deal with a lot of the tools on the side of Naventic. It's just they restricted themselves and still were able to perform when it comes to the pick bans, and I think that deserves quite a bit of credit. But yeah, Naventic, it's not like they were pushed into a direction where they're no longer going, like, how do we deal with this? It's really just all coming down to the execution between the teams.
I wonder if that means we will have Gorge plus the portal of Medivh to kidnap away the milk carton strategy that Superstars can execute. Looking at Team Naventic, they have a lot of ways of dealing with that. We've seen Gorge in the past have trouble versus a new Barak because of Cocoon. So there are tools from Team Naventic to try to make sure that someone doesn't get kidnapped away and back behind the gates of Superstars.
Yeah, they should be able to stall that out long enough here. I feel like a lot of it's going to be just who can kind of control the tone over the rotations for the most part here, and I'm looking at whoever's going to be on the Stitches, you know, has to be high impact when it comes to the hooks. Both Srey and Hero are not guys that when I think about Stitches is like very high impact on that hero, and so I'd like to see that kind of stand out.
Well, we're ready for game number 1 between Naventic and Superstars, so we're heading to Tomb of the Spider Queen.
And it is going to start here with our team in the blue. It's Superstars. Hosty is repping that Medivh. Yoda is going to be our Vala. Iacona is the support as always. He's got that. And, onto the Ariel. Erho is going to be on the Arthas. And we have Srey as the Stitches.
And Team Naventic in the red, Zuna playing his Dahaka. Big Impact playing Greymane, actually. That is a shift. Tomster playing Uther. Beakid on a Nubarak, and that means iDream is playing Li Ming. As long as we have seen iDream and Big Impact be together, whenever it's Greymane and Li Ming, it's the opposite. So it's an interesting shift, not really certain why. they've made this, but we know that they will be wanting to make changes because they haven't been super successful so far in HGC.
One thing too, got to shout out Naventic for the old school mounts. You know, they were repping both, not only the original Cloud9 there for iDream, but they had the money pick from Big Impact, not something we see too often. So at least they're, you know, really testing what we can get in terms of loadouts. First menu wave and dictating the pace of it. It seems like Superstars is going to be the ones pulling ahead, going with more of a 3-2 split where they recollap up in the mid lane. No surprise considering Stitches, Vola, and Ariel, some of the higher wave clear of each of their respective roles.
In the bottom, Greymane and Dahaka hanging out there. Greymane helping up against Airhose Arthas, but immediately you can already see how much Superstars is getting done in this laning phase, being able to push the waves right up and start draining the ammo of the towers of Team Naventic, while Team Naventic just has to try to keep up wherever they can.
Verho made the transition down. I thought for a moment they looked for that gank onto Zuno, but it shows Superstars just doesn't care about kills at all. The fact that he wasn't even questioning to throw a Howling Blast, they're way more focused on getting the drain onto those front walls and abusing the wave clear advantage that they have, hoping they can get those gems and just standard, you know, 2 minute Spider Queen play. But the initiation for Big Impact, he gets the Q out, so he's not going to be body blocked. There's the disengage, but the slows on to B-Kid are in fact going to be enough here. Superstars claims themselves first blood.
Shows the difference of the mindsets between the two teams, whereas Superstars is very focused on trying to drain the ammo of the towers. Team Naventic, we have seen them go back toward a focus on team fighting in their last series they played this weekend, and now trying to continue with that, get some picks earlier on, try to slow down the bleeding of their towers that Superstars have started. But the turnaround kill from Superstars was great, taking them out and getting first blood.
Hook, no follow-up. Detainment Strike is a possibility, not even going to be necessary. That is too much damage coming out from Yoda, and now another kill for Superstars. Superstars is not a team you typically talk about as the early game monsters, you know, but it seems like since Ray back into the front line, maybe that helps a bit more with the decision making and also amplifying their rotations. They are very much dictating and setting the tone for the game, and Naventic is yet to kind of find their place in that speed.
Later on, Team Naventic will be hoping that they can get some resets for iDream on that Li Ming, but it's going to be difficult with the setup that Superstars have between having Vola as a battery for Ariel to have those consistent heals, and then the Force of Wills of Medivh, and then a double warrior off of that have their own ways of trying to get some self-sustain out. Team Naventic, if they're relying just on a reset, may not be able to find it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, too, the fact that they go Orb build. It's triumvirate there at level 4. I expect to see Zai's Vengeance at level 7 now, just focusing more into damage control. It's very good around this exact situation. Hold on a minute. Yoda with that Vault. The Impale lands, the Burrow Charge there, and that is now B-Kid locking down the kill. Nice Force of Will there coming out from Hosi, keeping Iacona alive. He goes through one portal. You know, maybe not the best choice. iDream waiting on the other end. Li Ming gets herself one more reset and 2 kills for Naventic.
The Medivh player of Team Naventic understanding that when a portal's down, you need to guard both ends so that there's no safety, no escape through it. Team Naventic fire back out of the gates, getting 2 kills of their own and starting the turn-in, potentially getting close to having the first turn-in of the game.
But again, on that note with the Triumvirate that I was talking to about before, is it's going to be very, very good around those later stages of the game, stalling out around the objective, you know, whenever the opponents are trying to get the turn-in, but where it's going to hurt is around those fights at every other aspect. There's a lot of minions in the way on a map like this, a lot of fight around those web weavers and such, and so it's really going to be on the responsibility of iDream to get the perfect angle and flank and get value out of these talents.
And if iDream still wants to move into Zay's Vengeance, he does not do that. Giving up Calamity is... It's hard to do. It's hard to want to give up Calamity in a fight because of the ability of giving another one of your abilities damage and being able to teleport into a fight. Now, he still has to play more safely than what you would see from a normal build with Calamity because you don't have dominance, so you're not like, I can jump in, take them out with Calamity, and have full confidence that I'll get that health boost back from dominance. So it's a riskier form of still having it Calamity. We'll see if it pays off.
Hook going down. Nobody is found with this one. 36 gems in the hands of Sray as the final web weaver has now been cleared up for Superstars. Now that 7's online, you can expect Hosi there on the Medivh. Going to be stacking up those Master's Touch. We'll let you guys know when he finishes that. so very impactful for a Medivh player when that talent gets complete. You suddenly go from just a portal and a shield to pretty much, I mean, a flat-out killer here. And Superstars, with this window of downtime, they should be looking to try and get themselves that Web Weaver phase, specifically Stray. You know he wants to try and get those gems out of his hands so he can actually be the frontliner he was built to be.
Yeah, what is scary for Team Naventic is that they, in fact, have already spent 50 gems and are tied in experience. They're going to hope that they can get some kills right here so that Superstars does the same with their turn-in. But Superstars are already set up to have a very fruitful turn-in phase as things currently stand.
Man, that hook very close to being able to land there onto Zuna. And the Web Weavers moving their way in. Stray doing his best to be able to prep this top lane. You always, for those who don't know, how the Web Weavers decide where they're going to land is once they get close to the lane, they just match wherever the minions are. So while the whole time they're floating through those lanes, if you manage to kill the minions fast enough, you can just give that much more help to your Web Weavers because they die as they move forward. Time is the enemy here with this objective, but Superstars, the real enemy, is really, you know, the fact that some structures are up. They want to get this front wall, and once that goes down, they've got their heroics, and that is when Naventic has got to be scared. This is a whole level lead pre-10.
Yes. Not being able to get any sort of experience advantage over Superstars with their first turn-in phase, and then knowing that Superstars could get next turn-in, had to be putting fear in the minds of Team Naventic. They have dealt with these fairly well. They haven't lost any forts yet, but bottom is getting really low and nobody there to defend. Naventic all moved up to the top to at least save that. So one fort will go down for Superstars, the first fort in trying to bring down the first tier structures of Team Naventic, get things more open for them and less safe for Team Naventic to fall back to.
Zuna's got one burrow, and there's a portal now available. As Hosie's there, there's the hook. He's actually trying to bait this with the adaptation.
Yeah, he has the essence and then immediately took adaptation as they got to 10. B-Kid going to burrow charge in.
I was just going to say that was very uncharacteristic of Zuna to not use the burrow to dodge the hook, because that's the only way you end up going down there. But, you know, it made a bit more sense. He was trying to find a way to be able to bait them out, just not netting anything too relevant quite yet. Plus side here for Naventic is that they are closing in what could be a Web Weaver phase of their own. 4 gems is all that remains. But Superstars, the problem is they've got more than enough. Starting to get this channel. Stray is going to make it happen. Nice zoning from Urho, but the Disintegrate there from iDream's enough.
And then moving away, important, so that he did not get hooked after that. Tomster throws out a Holy Radiance, which stops Stray once again, but the fight is raging down in the bottom. Yoda gets hit by the Cursed Bullet. Cocoon goes down. Iacona and Urho are going to break Hostie out of it. Superstars does not get the full turn-in, but they do get all of the gems off of Stray, and they are very close to having more Web Weavers.
That was 2 heroics traded over onto the side for about 1 only onto Naventic. Tainment Strike thrown down. Portal is laid. Zuna's just going to go ahead, take a heal from Tomster, pop the passive, and he's going to be just fine and dandy. But the concern here is the Web Weavers that are going to be joining us in the next couple of seconds, and the fact that Superstars is creeping closer and closer to that 13 talent tier. Once they clear up that top fort, it is very likely that Naventic is going to have to make a very tough choice on a map like Tomb to turn in or to play the slow stall game.
Superstars may make that choice even harder with that 13 above. Portals drop down, scaring away Naventic from this defense of the Web Weaver. This will be 1 fort going down. Arthas has escorted the second Web Weaver up in the top.
Zuna with the flank.
There's going to be the Cocoon. They're diving on top of Hostie. They can get this kill. That is massive. Naventic take out Medivh. That's the first kill necessary to try to get back into this game, but Uther also goes down.
Zuna just getting that adaptation heal at the last second, keeps himself alive. That's 27 gems. The heal's coming out from Uther. Look at that. The Aegis now on Iacona. Urho keeps himself alive, and now look at that. Iacona keeping the team up means Yoda wails away onto Naventic, and just got a lot of value there out of that Vala. iDream managed to be able to make it out there. And, I mean, let's look at the map, Gilly. The entire thing is just painted blue. The Web Weavers have been pushing the entire time.
Superstars better be strutting their stuff because that lane was shiny after all the gems that were dropped from Team Naventic. Superstars, and where they were just going to be able to take forts, Team Naventic trying to engage the Crystal Aegis perfectly timed. after that, Superstars took away all of the gems from Team Naventic. They took their keep, and they're taking a lot of the hope that Naventic can come back in this game now.
Yeah, they're stealing it, not letting go, even taking away this camp on their way out. The whole portal's been laid. Triumvirate value there for iDream with that orb.
Good news for Naventic, Masters touch stacks were reset.
I mean, that's pretty neat.
A little good news.
Yeah, you're like, well, at least, you know, I don't have to worry too much about the hosty 1v1 capabilities, but the portal enabling post 13, the leyline seal, there's a lot that Medivh brings to the table.
Silver linings, Dread.
Silver linings, you know, I do my best. Why can't I ever have a gold lining? Like, you know, why can't platinum, something more fancy?
I don't even know what that would entail.
I don't really know either.
What kind of resources we would need to take to make that happen. And we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
15 to 12. Team Naventic, this is about it to try to get into a fight. They don't have the gems for turn-in.
This has been the best fight they had.
Yeah.
Like, stopping that turn-in right there, even though you don't have the 13 talents here, I'd take 12 into 15 more than I would 13 into 16. It's devastating to be able to not have that 16 talent here, and with so many gems so close to another turn-in phase for Superstars, you are essentially asking them to make a unreasonable decision, a just absolutely unrealistic one at this stage. 3 levels and a keep up on a map like Tomb where they have wave clear advantage. It's their game to lose.
Beacon tests the waters with Stray. Portal goes down. Big Impact is zoned away from a lot of Naventic, and you see Superstars starting to head in. Crystal Aegis, though, is forced. Yoda still staying healthy. Zuna burrows to make sure that his self-healing goes through, and it does. They're continuing in this fight, and they take out Vala.
They took out Vala, and that's the battery. Now everybody on Superstars full retreat. Nice force of will, the drag trying to pull them away from the portal. The knockup, is it there? No, another shield comes through, and Urho walks away. And you know, courtesy of Hosty, about every ounce of that was Hosty, and you guys wonder why I wonder, you know, Medivh, and I'm afraid of this hero in every single game. Is situations like that. It's like, oh, he's dead. And you're like, oh, maybe not. And
He's a rule breaker.
Yeah, he very much.
A game changer.
That's an understatement, you know?
The synergy, though, that we saw from Team Naventic with the drag, and then follow-up from a Nubarak from B-Kid that almost got Naventic a second kill, that's what I'm talking about when I say their synergy has improved a lot. You add to the fact that Tomster is starting to make plays as a support, Naventic are improving. But they're also fighting from way behind.
Yeah, and now, you know, they're also miles behind up in this game. That's a good point. Blue Web Weavers descending. Gilly, this is the 3rd time we found ourselves with this little icon in the lower right. And this one is going to really hurt. Probably worse than all the others, because with that 16 and with the bottom keep already down, it's at the point where this is a triple keep play potentially for Superstars if they really push their hand.
Oh yeah. Team Naventic made one fight work without 16. 13 into 16. Now they're 15 into 17. They're catching up. They may have to make another one of those miracle fights happen to stay in this game and not let Superstars run away with it.
Just a stall tactic here so far for Superstars. Zuna's yet to show on bottom, so they don't have any confidence they have the upper hand. He's actually going for a flank. They didn't anchor. Yoda's pretty low, and he doesn't have anybody to get hope on for Iacona there. There goes a leyline seal along with the Cocoon. Vile's going to be laid down. Adaptation pop for Zuna as he is just trying to be able to get those heals. Urho slowing everyone on the retreat, but nobody is dead yet. Good Howling Blast connects there with iDream, and that's all we've seen so far, Gilly. Now the turn.
Here's the turn. There's the portal. No one goes through it. They just walk up the old-fashioned way, but they take out Dahaka.
They all walked past the portal, and then they all landed on the other end of the portal. Oh man, but the top Webweaver failed to get the keep. I think the Winions might be the real MVP here. No, Greymane went up to make sure that does not happen. Superstars trying to abuse the 2-man advantage that they have now, going up towards the mid-keep. It looks like it's going to be forfeited. Still 16 out of reach here for Naventic. I expect it to be a top keep, and then after that, a boss play here for Superstars, and that should be GG.
Superstars get back. They were confident that they were able to take out that keep again, thanks to the fact that they had a Medivh. Medivh sitting at 12 Masters touch stacks. Hasn't been the easiest game for him, losing a lot of stacks when he died earlier on, but still giving all of the utility to his team with his leyline seals, the portals, the force of wills too. In that last fight too, things looked good. The whole team gathered around Yoda though when Yoda was low, and when Dahaka showed up and the cocoon went out, Yoda immediately strafed and stayed safe away from the team long enough to not only fill the battery but also take down the cocoon really quickly.
Naventic's closing in on their own turn-in. They are on the same talent tier for what might be the only time this entire game. Zuna is back at the base. Medivh is going to throw ahead. That Cursed Bullet turn onto Urho might be enough, but another shielding and a portal is taken. The leyline seal thrown out. It's going to go ahead and be a big old whiff for Rune. He's going to throw the hook. It lands on a Tomster. Divine Shield is self-casted. B-Kid goes in trying to get the rebuttal initiation here, but the Force of Will so well timed time and time again here from Hosi. Urho is never taking any damage.
Zuna's blown up from Superstars. That's the first kill. Strafe comes out immediately from Yoda to soften up the backline of Naventic significantly. Big impact goes down to a multi-shot. Detainment Strike shoves away Nubarak to his doom. Tomster is running away from a very scary Stitches who slams.
Dodge the hook, man. That's all you got to do.
You can dodge Cleaver.
I guess you don't have to. Post 16 Pulverize cooldown. I wanted to see the Respect Gentlemen's 1v1, but you know what? Superstars, they're feeling confident, and rightfully so. 11-4 in kills, and that is now 16-minute Tomb of the Spider Queen going over to Superstars with even a 3-level lead on top of it. It was, from beginning to end, Superstars' game.
It was the Superstars that we knew before, with a little bit more flavor, though.
Yeah.
They were willing to fight, and pretty early on as well, whenever Naventic brought it to them. Yoda playing ranged. I wonder how this will continue on. Does this mean no more Yoda Malthael?
I don't know. It makes me sad to think about that. And it also makes me afraid because does this mean that they have to run double warrior in every comp? Does that mean that they have to draft Arthas a lot higher because he's that warrior in that lane and very meta if the Dahaka's taken away? I think there's a lot of questions now at hand. Because I don't mind Yoda on range. Like, he had that weird role overall when looking at roll 20, but when, again, things like his Li Ming were just unstoppable. Like, I don't mind that change. It's just more of, does that cripple the drafting process into a double warrior too much, or are they comfortable still flexing maybe Urho now if they need an Illidan composition?
You know, probably initially it will be somewhat of a hindrance to them in drafting, but it doesn't always have to stay that way.
Yeah.
They have this match to try to get another victory over Naventic. They've already gotten one game in. And then they have one more match, and then there will be a period of time over which we're going to have the Western and Eastern clash where they have time to try to get Erho, I guess, into more of the ability to flex onto melees if that's how they want to go. But yes, I also agree that in the interim, where they have both playing warrior, it's going to be maybe something that somebody can abuse.
Yeah, where the drafting suddenly becomes like, oh, well, this hero's gone, this hero's gone. We know exactly. It's one of three, and they're all not optimal in these type of circumstances. Whether or not Naventic decides to try and stab at that in draft number 2, we'll be able to find out. Because it's kind of interesting, too, with that first draft, depending on Naventic and Superstar scrimmaging and who they were focusing on to scrim, maybe didn't even know that that role swap was kind of happening, and now goes, oh, you know, maybe they have to run double warrior because Srey and Urho, in fact, have been only warrior players for their entire competitive careers.
Yeah, and Srey has not always been on the warrior. He hasn't been on warriors, really, except a rogue Chin here and there. It's been Erho. And speaking of Erho, we can actually take a look at some of the statistics for the warrior who has been the primary warrior for Superstars throughout this phase so far, and B-Kid. Anything immediately jumping out at you? I'm looking at takedowns, man. There's quite a difference there.
Yeah, the takedowns themselves is rather significant inside of B-Kid. Not something that I feel like I would have jumped out and been like, you know, Beast-Kid is going to statistically be able to take out Urho. But then there's also a significant difference when it comes to kill participation. Urho finds himself more often being involved in those, breaking the 90% threshold. I feel like if for a warrior, I almost like the idea of having that higher kill participation, you know, for Urho. Statistically, weigh it a little bit more onto his side than that of the KDA. But, I mean, dying as a warrior, not having that front line oftentimes is part of the reason you can't contest that major objective, that game-losing objective.
When we talk about favorite heroes between the two warriors, B-Kid has clearly liked to have his Anubarak. He has played that one the most. And then after that, a lot of Arthas play. And then a few other heroes here and there, even dipping into Dahaka a couple of games and switching out with Zuna. Whereas Erho actually has played a lot of warriors, all equal amounts. So he's shown a lot of flexibility so far, the team. And that is probably going to ultimately come in handy now that they are shifting again their rosters,
Yeah,
their
very.
roles.
Yeah.
I do that all the time, like roster swap, role swap.
Same thing. I was just like, they're making a change. Hopefully, you guys understand what that means. Yeah, it's a little bit of a dude because we've had 25 and a half roster swaps with about seems like double that in the world of role swaps in phase number 2. I'm excited for game number 2 though. Naventic I was not.